The internal router components are actually quite straightforward. Actually, if you took apart some of the routers, you'd look at them like a PC, and that's effectively what it is. It has a processor, it has RAM just like a PC. The big difference, though, is that routers are optimized to do things at layer 3 of the OSI model, whereas a PC does things at layer 1 through 7. So effectively, we're dealing with a very specialized device, but many of the components are going to be the same. The one that is the most common is RAM. Every router has a little bit less or a little bit more RAM, depending upon its capacity and where it fits into the interface, but every single router is going to have RAM. It's going to use it as a working buffer memory. This is actually where it stores packets as they come on the interface, while they're waiting for path determination to be made, or where the packet is going to go before they actually get switched to an outbound interface and go on their way. This is something, it's very, very important. The more RAM you have, typically the more capacity the routers are going to have. We want to keep in mind that routers are actually rated for a particular capacity, and they do shift with what is considered to be the normal or the default amount of RAM that will give you very close to their maximum capacity. So just because we put a half a gig of RAM into a router, it doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to make it that much faster, but it will have more room for packets under a heavy load. Now the next area that is very important in a router is what is known as read-only memory, or ROM. There's going to be a ROM chip on every single router board that actually contains the bootstrap process that begins the boot, and this actually starts the router up for the very first time when you actually power it on. It's the very first thing that's going to be used. It actually contains a very basic boot configuration, and in some cases, on some routers, it will actually contain almost a complete copy of the Internet Network Operating System. Now, it won't be a complete copy from the standpoint that you have full functionality, but enough of the iOS, or the Internet Network Operating System, for you to do some of the basic functionality if you have to. You can actually use ROM to boot the system up so that you can break in, if you will. Now, breaking in is not a bad thing in this case. We're actually going to be looking at a password recovery a little bit later on. So one of those things that you sometimes have to do when the password gets changed or you forget to change it is to get in and recover the password. So ROM is very, very important as a part of the internal router component set.